Well, this was the position as at yesterday when Minister of Power, Mr. Adelabu, visited. And we're going to be discussing this issue about now, as well as a number of other issues. And we have with us here this morning Mr. Amos, or shall I say, Honorable Amos Magaji, who is the Chairman, House Committee on Health. Honorable, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Well, this is what we saw on our TV screens yesterday. The Minister of Power eventually visiting UCH Ibadan to see, just how they could resolve the lingering crisis. As of yesterday, it was 107 days that institution had been without electricity. Was it something you were aware of?
Yeah, earlier on there was, I think about a year plus now, there was crisis, a power outage in UCH, and we visited and actually intervened. And then the UCH management and then the
IBEDC?
Ibadan Distribution Company decided to reach an agreement where payment were made. In spite of that, I think they still cut the light, and then the house intervened, and then they reconnected the light. Now, this was before the Ban A issue started. And then when the Ban A started, the problem came back again. And I think that's the reason why they are now having this huge power problem in UCH. And of course, you know that University College Hospital Ibadan is very huge. And the power situation in that university is teaching hospital is so bad that most time what we decided to advise them was to sectionalize the hospital. Critical areas should have maybe solar power or be on some certain gen. But they have started it. But of course, it's difficult even to run some key clinic with solar.
Indeed. Well, I mean, I spoke with the Minister of Health, the coordinating Minister of Health yesterday. Sadly, that interview would not air until much later. But he did say that that's part of what they're trying to see how they can, implement some off-grid solutions to see how they can reduce the cost since, the UCH is going to be on the Band A tariff plan. But it clearly shows the challenges that quite a number of medical facilities across the country will be facing, because it turns out it's not just the UCH that has complained about this. We've also had a number of other institutions that have complained about this. I think very, very, very few of them do not have this challenge. For instance, the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, which was able to go completely off grid. But from your thinking as Chairman House Committee, what are some of the solutions that you have been thinking of around this particular problem of power? I mean, UCH highlights it, but I'm sure it's not the only one that is facing this particular problem.
I can authoritatively tell you that in all the federal health hospitals in Nigeria, none is without power problem. Power issue has been #1 problem in health institutions. I have visited all except Gusau. I mean, all across the country. Zamfara. And of course, we were trying to get to Zamfara when we were stopped on the road. That bandits were operating on the road, so we had to turn back. But I visited all the tertiary health institutions in the country. And I can tell you all of them, #1 problem is power. And this is because of the overhead given to the hospitals. The budget provisions are a little bit low. Maybe you see a hospital that has probably 200 million overhead. And in that overhead, that's what they pay for outsourced services like the security, the cleaner, and then also take care of their power. Now, the Ban A came to solve a problem, but also created another problem, because the power situation in the hospital where some hospitals were just enjoying maybe 10 to 15 hours of light in a day, and then some far below that. Then the Ban A issue came. Now, you imagine a hospital that probably was paying 30 million per month, and then suddenly the bill from electricity distribution came down to over 100 million, with an overhead of maybe 200 million in a year. So it immediately put all the tertiary health institutions in a big power problem.
So the question is, what are the solutions?
Now,
What is the House thinking in that area?
Even in the 2025 budget that is still in the House we're considering, there is an attempt to make sure that many of the health institutions are solarized. That means sectionalize the hospital and then give some mini grids to the hospital where it will take some critical section of the hospitals. Another solution is to actually increase the budgetary allocation to the hospital. But for the meantime is to solarize the hospital, like the minister said, so that many sections of the hospital will not depend on electricity. They will be totally cut off from the power, what we call NEPA, and then they will depend on solar, wards and some critical section of the hospital. By so doing, the cost of electricity in the hospital will reduce. But of course, doing that also requires money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that is the first thing to do. And then recently, I think last year, there was also an attempt to give the hospital some concession, maybe giving them 50% off their tariff. And then this is also part of the discussion going on. So to ensure that critical areas receive some intervention as regards power, and this has to be reached between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Power. Because of course, if somebody is, if you are subsidizing power for an institution, somebody must be paying the amount subsidized. So these are some of the agreement that the Ministry of Health and then the Power, Ministry of Power is reaching. The problem of power is all over the country. It is not just UCH, but of course, bigger hospital will have bigger problem. Smaller hospital will have maybe less problem because the amount of light they consume is so high. This is to say we're looking at just electricity. Now, they don't have electricity 24 hours. There's also the issue of powering their generator. Some of them spend over 50 million in a month just to power a generator. So if you combine the amount spent on powering on diesel and then electricity, some hospitals are going over and above 150, some 100 million, some over that.
Which is not, is this sustainable?
It is not sustainable. So that's the reason why the issue of alternative power need to come into play. And of course, you know that many of these hospitals are operating very sensitive medical equipment, things like MRI, CT scan, and fluctuation of power will destroy those equipment that were procured for over $1 billion.
Big issues, really. I'm sure that Ayo will want to intervene before we go on to other issues. Ayo.
Thank you, Malkwe. You know, one of the issues that came to mind as you began to talk is, particularly for an institution like the UCH, is that it's a legacy institution. It's an institution, one of those institutions that's brought significant acclaim to Nigeria as a bastion of healthcare delivery in the country over time. It would seem like it's either we don't have, we choose not to have a sense of history, or we don't even know the impact or how far-reaching these things, go from time to time. As you said, it's the power problem for UCH as for other teaching hospitals in the country. They are not new. What led to that? Is it that we don't know how important, how significant these institutions are, Mr. Mugachi? I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, very faint, but I think I heard you saying what is the problem. Now, the issue is the budgetary allocation to many of these hospitals. This year budget, and of course last year budget, the Abuja Declaration clearly in 2001 clearly agreed that the budget for health should be about 21% of the budget should be for health. But unfortunately, Nigeria hardly reached a 10% budget for health. And of course, these institutions are running They are offering services to Nigerians. The budget for health must really be looked into. And then, of course, you know, as a country, health is not only the area where we have challenges. We have challenges in infrastructure, we have challenges in power, we have challenges in health. So the first thing is to ensure that budget allocation for health increases. Now, another solution is to make sure that some of these hospitals, the amount that Nigerians pay for these services are reviewed. But of course, reviewing the amount would also cause a lot of problems since many Nigerians are living below poverty level. So these are critical areas that must be looked into. The Ministry of Health have come up with so many interventions, and of course, even the House. Just from a few months ago, last year, we declared state of emergency on health, and these were from the House of Representatives. And these are some of the critical issues that we're looking at. The spending on health is low, and then of course to see how we revamp our hospital. I can clearly inform you here that the hospitals today are not where they used to be. Even though we are having huge challenges, but our hospitals in Nigeria now are better than where they were 5 years ago. And there is serious commitment in the House, and of course the Ministry of Health also, to ensure that our hospitals are not just mere consulting rooms. There's a plan, and then of course we are upgrading the teaching hospitals, Federal Medical Center, and all the tertiary health institutions in the country. Very soon, some of the investment made on health will be clearly seen. But of course, we are not where we ought to be.
Yeah, but you know, the problem is not whether or not these promises are to be made, Honorable. The challenge is whether or not, you know, we can still get the trust or the confidence of the Nigerian people, because having been disappointed over the years, it's only natural for anyone to say, well, here is another one just saying what he needs to say to get by. So what's the assurance we have this time around? You said earlier that it's a budgetary issue, it's a budgetary challenge, and if we knew this, I mean, definitely we are not unaware that electricity to some extent has been privatized. So for those people who are supplying the services, it is business. Was it part of the thinking of government to ensure that we don't get to where we are now? And I'm going to ask that question again, particularly for the governance in the hospitals and all. What's the assurance that in another few years, we're not going to come say the same thing that we are talking about now? Add to that the perspective we're giving the young Nigerians who are in medical school. What's the assurance we're giving them that you guys can sleep easy, the future is bright, you can practice in Nigeria?
I can categorically tell you that the budget for health has been, has seen an improvement from the year, even though it is not enough yet, but critical efforts have been made to ensure that all health institutions receive an attention. Like last year, there was a supplementary budget for health, and then intervention also came in for health institutions, where equipment, renovation, upgrading of teaching hospitals were key. And even this year's budget that is before the House, infrastructural upgrade, equipment upgrade generally are key. If you look at the 2024 budget, that is one of the budget that for many years that the capital component of the budget was raised a little. So these are to address some of these critical challenges in health. As I told you earlier on, I have visited all the federal teaching hospitals in Nigeria, and I can tell you that many of them are not where they used to be. There's a lot of improvement, even in the medical schools, to ensure that teaching hospitals are receiving major attention. Now, you need to also understand that apart from the issue of light, there are also issues of this JAPA that the health sector, that's human resource for health, that we faced not many months ago. Many hospitals are in their need of medical doctors and nurses. So the attention has gone back to even the medical schools to ensure that the quota given to medical school is increased so that we have more doctors that are trained and more nurses so that we will bridge the gap between, you know, the ones that are living and those that will remain in the country. So I can tell you that there is hope for the country when it comes to the medical health. The Minister of Health, Professor Pate, is doing all in his power to ensure that the health of Nigerians receive attention. We also in the House Committee, we are always meeting. Just yesterday, the Senate Chairman of Health and then the House sat and in our usual meeting deliberated on some of these key issues, looking at areas where we will give more attention when it comes to this 2025 budget. And of course, power was one of them. And
but
infrastructure.
My apologies, Honorable. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah, my sincere apologies. Power is just one of the issues, just as you have said. Now, students of the UCH went on the streets and no one addressed them then. Even when the minister went, you saw the report that was put out. I do not recall if the minister took time to address their concerns. Who is speaking to the students of the UCH and other teaching hospitals in the country to assure them that things are going to be different? It's been many years of degradation, and we all know that it's a lot more difficult to build than it is to destroy. So if it's taking this long to come down this low, how long will it take for us to build it back? So who is speaking to the students to give them the assurance that their institutions of higher learning, from which they are likely to just finish and go to the hospitals, are going to be treated better, and they're going to get the kind of learning they need to match them with their peers in other parts of the world?
I can tell you authoritatively that in 2025 budget, which is before the House and we're still
Honorable, I get that, but just a second, I get that, but who is talking to the students? Who is going to address them to assure them?
I spoke with the Chief Medical Director, I spoke with the Minister, and then of course there are institutions, the CMD is responsible for the College of Medicine there. And of course, the University Authority also. I am not in Ibadan, but I have also spoken to the Chief Medical Director regarding this issue of power in that school. And I'm telling you that this issue is being addressed. You may not see it immediately, but of course, if the issue were not addressed, just the report that we saw now, the Minister of Power went there. And that's a step to solve the problem of health. And I'm telling you that in this year's budget, UCH was one of the hospitals that received additional allocations in our own budget. I personally work on that.
Let me come to you now about the issue of, because health is broad and it's wide, and I know the power is a major challenge, and that's why we spend significant time there, because some people will say if only we were proactive, maybe with this problem, we would have seen it coming, especially when they're about to switch to Band A, and we would not have experienced this if we had thought through the plan and seen institutions that will most likely have been affected. But, you know, as it is now, we see that, you know, steps are being taken to resolve it. But another one is looming large, which is the fact that we depend a huge deal on donor funding. And we see what is happening with the United States, you know, deciding to do what it's doing with USAID. It's not clear yet, you know, what's going to happen with the organization. There's still a lot of apprehension in that sector. It has pulled out of the World Health Organization, of which is also a major funder. The World Health Organization also funds a number of other projects as well. Do you have any concerns, you know, for our health sector, as some of these major donor bodies are going to be a bit challenged in terms of helping other African countries such as Nigeria?
Yeah, if anybody says the issue of the pullout of the United States, US aid, is not a concern, the person is lying. Because through US aid, that there are many, many Nigerians that depend on ARV drugs from their implementing partners. So these people pulling out will actually cause a lot of problems. But thank God, recently, there was an order that they would, all Americans in Nigeria would have left. But I think the court injunction stopped that. And they are also actually picking
You mean
some
US aid workers?
US aid workers. But right now they are picking up some of their project. But it's a warning sign for Nigerians, so that we don't depend on donor funding for critical interventions like ARVs, malaria, and some of those educational programs that USAID offers to Nigeria. That brings me to the issue of our budget. You know, most times...
Our budget, right?
Yeah.
And we have a pretty big budget this year, over 2 trillion naira for the Ministry of Health.
Most time when you look at 3 trillion naira, Nigerians just look at, okay, we have 2 trillion naira for health. Now divide 2 trillion naira by 220 million.
Is that how health is? Is that how we look at it?
Well, just let's look at it per capita.
Okay.
Yeah, if we look at it that way, that means every Nigerian will go home with less than 11,000. That's if our population is 220 million. For the whole year, 10,000 naira cannot buy augmentin. So when we say the budget of health is huge, imagine UCH. The money that UCH need to overhaul that hospital is in hundreds of billions. That's just one institution. Look at Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. I told you I've been to all these hospitals. There is none without a problem. And these are as a result of many years of negligence, many years of poor funding. So if you look at, you say the budget is huge. South Africa has less than the population of Nigeria.
I'm observing that when you look at all the well, I say cost components of the budget this year, it does appear that health is getting some attention, some good attention, compared to previous years.
Of course, health is getting some attention. But with the numerous challenges that we have in the health sector, by the time that money comes and is sunk into health, there will be some observable differences. Some intervention will be obvious, but of course some of them would take years. Even look at the entire budget for health for Nigeria, with the population of over 220 million. South African budget for health is by far more than the budget for Nigeria, with a population by far lower than Nigeria. So just look at the example I gave. If Nigeria, let's assume that there will be no infrastructural upgrade, there will be no procurement of any MRI machine or anything. Just take the budget for health and divide it for every Nigerian. That means every Nigerian will go home with about 10,000 naira, as against the budget in the United States, where every citizen in America is going home with over $15,000.
Why do we always use the US? Isn't that, I mean, when you look at our budgets, they certainly are nothing to compare.
Well, sometimes it is better.
Why we're not using other, maybe neighboring African countries or countries in the same class as us in terms of development index?
Well, that's why I use South Africa.
Slightly bigger than us, Why do we always have to go all the way to the United States?
Just because that's where we aspire to be.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that that's where we'll eventually. I'm hoping that, our health, because even they complain about their healthcare system, and we've seen how, they say a lot of their people cannot even access health. And a lot of Nigerians who have visited there sometimes do not really understand how it works. If you do not have insurance, you can't get anything.
And you see, now that brings me to, you say if you don't have insurance, and of course, health insurance here. Do you know before now, the health insurance was like 750 Naira. And then it is now being reviewed to around 12,000 to 18,000. Now, for example, 18,000 Naira for 1 year. What would that procure? Recently, I spoke with the DG, National Health Insurance, And then one of the biggest complaints is the capitation. It is too low that right now it is difficult for you to attend to some patients. Not to talk of patients that have critical health challenges.
So you think that the contributory funds to the national health insurance system should go up?
Should go up.
What do you think that, workers should be paying per head? Because the way insurance works is that not everybody is expected to be sick at the same time. The idea is that when, if you're pulling funds, when one person is sick, the money that has been pulled should be able to help one person.
Yeah, what we're working on, if we bench it between, let's say, 20 to 30,000 per year, per annum.
I was afraid. I was going to say per month.
No, not per month.
Okay.
Then you also ensure that we enroll many Nigerians. So if Nigerian, like you said, it is an insurance. So if many Nigerians are enrolled into the funds, then the fund will be able to take care of the sick. There is no reason why Nigerians should pay out of their pocket. And of course, that also has some health implications. Because if somebody is sick today and has to pay from his pocket, and the patient has only 5,000 naira, for the person to move from, let's say, Guzape to Garki Hospital, you pay more than 2,000 naira for transportation. So you better go to a patent medicine vendor and pick whatever you can pick that your 2,000 or 3,000 will pay. And of course, that will also have health implications. Now we are having rising cases of renal failures. This as a result of that. But if every Nigerian knows that whether I have money or I don't have money, if I'm sick, I can go to hospital and get treated, they will make their way to hospital. They will not stop by the chemist to just ask for any drug given to them. And of course, it's business. If you come, you're looking for antibiotics, and then the money you have in your hand is 1,000. The man in the chemist will give you drugs for 1,000. Whether you will cover the dosage or not, his own is to collect money. And that's the reason why we're having so much problem. So our determination this time is to ensure that many Nigerians key in the health insurance. And then, of course, organizations that have not been paying must register their workers into health insurance. By so doing, others that are not sick will be paying for those that are sick. And we'll have a healthier country. And of course, a healthy country is a prosperous country.
I found it very interesting that you're the chairman House Committee on Health, but the Ministry of Health has now been renamed to the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. So you do not oversee the social welfare part of the health. Is that correct?
It's all encompassing.
It's all encompassing, but the House hasn't renamed it.
No, I'm the leading chairman of the Committee on Health. Mm-hmm. So whatever activity of the Ministry of Health is under.
I see.
So whatever aspect that the Ministry of Health is undertaking, we oversee it.
I see. Okay, just clarifying, because I think it's significant.
You wanted to hear that Committee on Health and Social Welfare.
Yes, but part of what got us to this part of the conversation was the concerns you were raising about how we're dependent on donor funding and how we ought not to be. What are the plans? I don't know whether you've had a conversation with the coordinating Minister of Health.
Yes,
on this particular issue. Do you feel reassured that this is a challenge looking at us that we can surmount?
As a matter of fact, the minister was out of the country when this thing broke up, and I called him. And in his usual way, he was trying to network to see how we get some, window period where, to stop antiretroviral drugs just like that is going to have a lot of impact on any nation. So he was negotiating to see whether is it another source or give us some few months before you withdraw so that we can, realign ourselves to take care of some of these needs. So that's what happened, and he's on it right now. This has taught us a lesson that we must not depend on donor funding for our health. Mm-hmm. Just during this budget period, there is an institution called the medical research institution is in Lagos. And the many of the research are given by the researches are done by the foreign agency. And then when they pay, they determine what type of research you do for them. So if you are paying, like the saying, he that pays the piper dictates the tune. And then if we are sponsoring research in health, we can decide and say, hey, there is so much going on in hepatitis in Nigeria. Can we research and see what are the immediate causes and underlying causes of it? But if a donor agency comes, he will tell you what he wants you to research on. And as long as we are depending on donor funding, we will not grow. So the way forward is to ensure that we continue to reduce. We won't say we don't need funding. No, we can't say that every donor agency should stop now. But we should make sure that the greater percentage of our health funding is not coming from donor agency, because they can pull out any day and any time.
So let me ask you, for 2025, as the Chairman House Committee on Health, what are some of the expectations? What are some of the things that you're hoping, milestones that you hope we'll be able to tick this year?
Okay, there is a lot of attention given to cancer. A lot of attention given to cancer research, the treatment, and then, of course, this basic provision, health fund. A lot of attention is also going into the aspect of blood ban, because all across the country, some people, when they are sick, they may just need maybe 2 pints of blood, and you keep running helter-skelter. There's no local government right now that you go, many of them in Nigeria, that you have a safe blood ban that you can easily pull out. So these are some of the attention, emergency interventions are giving, attention in this 2025 budget. Cancer is giving serious attention. Issue of also renal diseases, because if a worker is earning 100,000 in a month and then is having renal failure, and you need to do a dialysis every 3 times a week, each session of dialysis will cost nothing less than 50,000. So imagine if a patient is on dialysis, even if you are doing 2 sessions in a week, that's over 100,000. That means a patient under dialysis will spend like 400.
So what are you hoping would change this year with regards to that?
What would change this year is there are a lot of hospitals that we're opening dialysis centers, and then government is trying to increase the catastrophic funds and then vulnerable group funding.
Okay.
To assist those Nigerians that.
And that is
then,
happening.
Of course, the issue of health insurance also, looking at trying to put some of those things into, the health insurance scheme.
All right. Well, we certainly will catch up again with you in the course of the year. I know that health is something that is very broad, and maybe by that time you would have added the social services or social welfare to your title as well. We have to thank you very much for coming on the program. Honorable Amos Magaji is the Chairman, House Committee on Health. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll take a break at this point, and we'll be back shortly to discuss another matter, this time around bordering on U.S.-Nigeria relations. And interestingly, our guest is going to be joining us all the way from the United States. So please stay with us.